There are summers we simply pass through. And then there are summers that stay with us forever, like an old song that only needs a few opening notes for us to remember the entire melody. The summer of 1978 was one of those. Back then, life moved much slower. There were no smartphones, no social media. No one rushed to capture every moment because we were truly living in those moments. The summer days felt endless. Golden sunlight stretched across narrow streets, and in the evenings, the whole town seemed to breathe a little slower. I was 19 at the time, a young man without big plans, without a clear dream. I only knew that I was living in a small town in Ohio, where everyone knew each other's names, and old stories repeated themselves year after year. I used to think my life would always be like that. Until that summer. We had a place we always went to. Miller's Diner. A small corner diner with worn red leather seats, a slow-spinning ceiling fan, and a jukebox in the corner, always playing familiar songs. The smell of coffee, fresh pies, and laughter seemed to seep into every wall of that place. Every evening we gathered there, 5 of us. No more, no less. Tommy was the dreamer. He never really belonged to that town, at least in his mind. He was always talking about California, about college, about something bigger waiting out there. Ray was the complete opposite. He lived in the moment. Loud, funny, always the one who made the whole table laugh. Ray could turn an ordinary story into something that kept you laughing all night. Linda was the quiet one. She didn't say much, but when she did, everyone listened. There was something deep in her eyes, as if she had seen more than the rest of us understood. And then, there was Sarah. Sarah had a very special laugh. Not too loud, but enough to make everything around her feel lighter. When she laughed, it felt like nothing else in the world really mattered. And me, I was just someone standing somewhere in between. Not as bold as Ray, not as driven as Tommy, not as thoughtful as Linda. I was just there, watching, listening, and slowly realizing that I was looking forward to every evening at Miller's Diner, not just because of my friends, but because of Sarah. Everything went on like that, until one evening. Tommy walked into the diner holding a letter. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat down and placed the letter on the table. We looked at each other. Then Ray broke the silence. "Don't tell me you won the lottery." Tommy smiled, a smile I had never seen before. "California," he said. Just one word, but it changed everything. Tommy had been accepted into a college in California. His dream had finally come true. We celebrated, of course. We ordered more food, turned the music up louder, and Ray told even more ridiculous stories than usual. But something in the air had changed. As if all of us somehow knew this wasn't just good news. It was the beginning of goodbyes. That same summer, I began to realize that my feelings for Sarah were no longer simple. We started taking walks together after our evenings at the diner, just familiar roads, conversations that went nowhere in particular, but somehow, everything felt meaningful. Some nights, we lay on the grass by the lake, staring up at a sky full of stars. She talked about little things, her family, her uncertain dreams, the way she wasn't sure what the future would look like. And I just listened. There were so many times I wanted to say it, to tell her I didn't want those moments to end, to tell her that I loved her, but I never did. Time moved faster than we expected. The day Tommy would leave drew closer. And then, the last night arrived. We decided not to stay at the diner. Instead, we went to the lake. We brought an old radio, a few cheap drinks, and a feeling none of us wanted to name. That night was beautiful. The sky was full of stars, not a single cloud, a gentle breeze, just enough to ripple the water. We talked, we laughed, we revisited old memories. Ray kept telling stories, Tommy kept smiling, Linda quietly observed. Everything felt the same, and yet completely different. Then slowly, we drifted apart. Tommy walked off on his own. Ray stretched out on the grass. Linda sat near the water. And it was just me and Sarah. She sat beside me, quiet for a long moment, then softly asked, "Do you think we'll still be like this in 10 years?" I looked out at the lake. I knew the real answer, but I said, "Of course, nothing's going to change." She smiled gently, a smile I still remember to this day. But this time, there was a hint of sadness in it. The next morning, Tommy left. No big farewell. No tears, just a hug, a few pats on the back, and a quiet, "Keep in touch." The bus pulled away, and we stood there in silence, as if someone had just closed a chapter of our lives. In the weeks that followed, life went on. We still met, but it wasn't the same anymore. There was a space no one knew how to fill. And then time did what it always does. It pulled us in different directions. Ray stayed in town, got married. Linda left without saying much. And Sarah, one day, she simply stopped showing up. No explanation. She just wasn't there anymore. I never told her. And then I never had the chance to. 40 years passed. Miller's Diner is gone. It's just an empty building now. The jukebox is probably long gone too. The town is still there, but it doesn't feel the same. Sometimes I drive down the old road past where the diner used to be, then out to the lake. I sit there, just like that last night. I've heard about Tommy. He made it, built the life he dreamed of. Ray is still here. He has kids, grandkids. Linda, I don't know. And Sarah, I never saw her again. Not once. Sometimes I wonder, if I had said it back then, would things be different? If I had been just a little braver, could I have held on to something from that summer? But then I understand there are moments in life that are not meant to last forever. They come just long enough to change us, deep enough to stay with us for a lifetime. The summer of 1978 was not a perfect summer, but it was the most real one, where we laughed honestly, dreamed endlessly, and for the first time, understood that time waits for no one. Now, when I look back, I don't feel the same regret anymore, just a quiet stillness and a gentle smile. Because in the end, life isn't about holding on to everything. It's about knowing how to appreciate it while we still can. And there are summers, no matter how long they've passed, that continue to live on in the stories we tell.